you come talk to us.
Well, we're going to keep this thing going, and as we have the past few weeks, Austin done busted up in here, and of course, Austin is Kathy's son, Donna's nephew, and if anybody lived it firsthand, buddy, from a parent standpoint and a child standpoint, you lived it and came out on the other side, and you're doing great things as well. But I'm going to let Donna kind of run with this one, because if anybody knows the history, she does.
Okay, so again, this is Austin and Kathy, and I'm Donna, and kind of thinking back, Bub, and I want to see, what your earliest memory is, but, we had Austin on here a month or so ago, so we kind of told our backstory a little bit. Austin was about 7?
9.
9, okay.
7 when I started. 9.
Yeah, 9 when he went to prison. But I can remember, and you tell me if you have memories before this, but I can remember when your mom was in active addiction, and she had you in the car. Mike was looking for you both because we were trying to get Austin. And somehow I found you, and I chased your car until finally I got you at Wendy's in Ashland, and I grabbed you out of her car. Do you remember? That's the earliest memory I think I have with Bub, with you. And you probably don't remember that, but...
I think the earliest memory that I have was probably going on a run with you.
Yeah, he'd go with me, and then I'd have him in the back seat, and he'd have his electronics and stuff, and then I would go buy dope. I mean, I'd go buy pills or trade pills. I mean, it wasn't really a lot of buying, just a lot of trading and stuff, and I didn't think a thing in the world of it, because he had food and he had his electronics and he was good, and it was only going to be a minute or two, and not thinking that he was paying attention, and then later for him to ask, like, Mom, who was those people, and why did they give you that, and what was that? And then I was like, oh, God.
Just brush it off at that point.
I'd be like, oh, that was just, we just had to stop for a minute, Bubby. That wasn't nothing. Those people didn't even come up to the car window. And he'd be like, they did.
He's like, yeah, Mom, I saw
he's like,
it.
Mom, I saw them.
He was on to something.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
knew. He knew something wasn't right.
And that's what when I'm doing groups and stuff like that, when I'm educating people and we're sitting there having this conversation, I'm like, your kids pay attention, because I did. Like they
know more than you think they know.
Just because they're 7, 8, 9 years old, I mean, maybe even younger, they pay attention. They ask questions because you're that role model for that person.
Absolutely.
Even in her worst moments, she was still a role model for me.
So at what age do you feel like you realized, okay, mom's doing drugs?
I don't think it really hit me until Dad had to sit me down and have the conversation and say, your mom's going to prison.
How old were you then?
About 9.
About 9,
Yeah.
Mike said, so I get sent to prison that day, and Mike takes Austin to, like, one of the bedrooms there at the house, and he sets him down, and he says, Bubby, Mommy's not coming home for a while. And Austin's like, what? And he's like, Mommy's got to go to prison for 6.5 years.
Did that resonate at all at 9?
Not at all.
You know what he did? He looked at his dad, and he said, Dad, we'll get through this. And Mike told me that, and I thought that disturbed my soul, because at this point, the youngest person in the family is now controlling the emotions of his dad and his mom put him all in this situation. It was just, I'll never forget that.
He got you through it too.
He did, and Austin was always the happy kid. He was always like
funny,
and he would always play with your tag.
Yeah.
So you knew when Austin was having a good day because he would be playing with your tag. It was like his little nervous
tick.
his little tick. Yeah, but and then so we would watch him. He obviously, me, Mom, and Mike, we would always like, okay, Bub, you okay? Almost to the point where it was like he was like, will you guys leave me alone?
Right.
But I don't know what. Like, when we first went to the prison and things, like, how was that conversation? How did you feel about that, talking to your mom in a prison?
It was a conversation. It was weird, honestly, at first, because, I mean, you're sitting around these people that, like, you see on the news, or you see in the TV shows and these movies but they're real people. Like, they're like every single one of us sitting in here, and it's hard looking at her when I couldn't even stand up in front of her and give her a hug. Like, it was.
You couldn't hug.
You
weren't allowed to touch her.
Couldn't.
No, we could sit beside each other.
About this far away.
Yeah, and he could maybe like touch my hand and stuff, but we weren't allowed to touch.
Yeah, and it was difficult, and me and Taylor sitting there, and we wanted to know the truth. We wanted to know what was going on, because I mean we'd been lied to for so long. I'm ready for some answers, because I knew something wasn't right.
Did it get harder as time went on? Like when you were 9, you're jumping down. Next thing you know, she's still in, and you're 12.
I think it affected my personal life more than anything, like with friends and things like that, because everyone else has got a mom and a dad, or whatever their family dynamic looked like. In my life, everyone had their parents right there.
Right.
But going home and having to explain to, you know, some of my best friends growing up, I'm like, well, this is what my life's like today. I think this is where it affected me the most because I wouldn't care to talk about it, but it wasn't something I was proud of.
Oh, sure.
Well, and people judge. You know, if you
Yeah.
say, you know, I don't want to have
Oh,
my
yeah.
friends spend the night, and they're like, well, your mom's in prison for drugs. What's that mean
yeah.
about your dad or your other
Yeah, the
family?
friends' parents
and you're
are like, no, you ain't going over there.
Especially back, you know, at that time, again,
Yeah.
it wasn't talked about like it is now.
Right.
And then I drove another wedge just a little deeper just because I had to add insult to injury. So Mike's brother and them lived just down the road from us. So these kids were all raised like siblings. And I totally destroyed that. So Austin didn't have them either. Like they didn't see Mike and Austin either. They had nothing to do with our family at all. They would talk to Donna a little bit, but there was just some resentments there, and they didn't. So Austin not only, you know, his aunt and uncle was removed from his life for a period of time, and then his cousin Hannah was, and then Nick, we really secluded him because that kid didn't get to meet any of us because that's just how it was. I didn't realize how damning that was to them for some time until little by little they start asking questions. And then you start making the connection, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they don't even know each other now. Now Austin and Nick are really close, and it's amazing. But there was times that it just didn't happen, and they missed out on so many Christmases and Thanksgivings, and it's not even gifts; it's just family time.
Oh, sure,
because you don't know how much
absolutely.
time you have left.
Yeah.
When I come home from prison and Mike got sick, I was home like 7 days, and he had to have a quadruple bypass. And he had to go in the hospital. I had to leave the hospital so his family could come see him because they didn't even want to be in the same room with me. And then that leaves Austin with his dad, who's
middle.
very sick,
Yeah.
and he doesn't know what to do. He's a kid, and so I try my best to not show any emotion whatsoever. But then you watch your kid cry. Oh, and it just eats your heart out. But you don't want him to feel guilty for wanting to spend time with the family because none of them did anything wrong. I mean, it was me.
Right.
But it was hard. It was a big hard ownership that we all had to go through. And Austin had it was very challenging going to a small country school.
It was.
Oh yeah, because everybody
Everybody knows
hide.
everybody.
Yeah, everybody knows everything. And then
Right.
it just wasn't what happened. They wanted to add I was breaking in houses and stealing guns. And
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
it would become
yeah,
this big
yeah,
thing.
right.
And but it was hard. But the love of a child, if a parent in recovery doesn't think that could ever happen, I'll never forget. I come home and it was your 8th grade year, and you walk him across the field, and I wasn't going to go. I just like I'm not going to put him through that, and he wanted me to go, and I'll never forget that because I never thought I'd see the day that I was going to be invited. It was it's just one of those profound moments where you know that this is the reason why. And if a parent gets to experience that and then get to do it again when they're a senior, get to go to all the proms, I never thought I'd get to do it with any of them. And I got to do it with all of them. And I think it was because they had some hard questions for me.
Oh, absolutely.
And it sucked.
Rightfully so.
Oh, God. And I just had to sit
Yeah.
there, and they would ask questions. And Austin was like, Mom, what did that drug do that was so good to you that we weren't?
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's hard.
It was rough.
Austin, did you any procrastination when it came to asking your mom to do that, or was it just like, of course my mom's going to do that?
After I knew that, you know, everything felt normal again,
Yeah.
I knew that she was right there.
Absolutely.
And obviously, you know, 15 years has gone by now, but between her and Dad, there's not one other person I'd call first if I needed anything at the drop of a hat.
Besides his Aunt Donna.
Yeah.
And it was, and
Hey,
Donna,
duh.
he was very like I said, I'm very fortunate that Austin had Mike and Donna and my mom and dad, because they really wanted to make sure that he was okay. And then I didn't know when to say what. Like if they're not asking questions, do you give too much information? It's like, you know, when you're working a 4th step in the, you know, the 12-step programs, are you going to do more harm by saying some things? And I think that we've really been able to really help some other families just because Austin's had some friends and they're like, hey, your mom's an addict. You was an addict. And Austin's like, yeah. And they'll ask him questions at the 8. Well, he was a senior in high school.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was crazy. Him and Taylor both, kids would call them and ask them questions. And I didn't know how to take that at first, if it was going to be embarrassing to them. And then when I started working in the recovery field, they came to every event. every day, every time. I didn't have to invite them. There they
Right.
were. And it just blew my mind
Yeah.
because they wanted to know.
And one thing about our story that I would like to share too is that, you know, we did have families that were torn apart.
Oh, God, yeah.
And just trying to put our families back together took a long time. Like, it was 8 years. And we had to start small. So if there's other families, I mean,
Yes.
like, I had, like, Kathy wrote a letter, and then I delivered the letter, and then the letter was written back. I mean, it was like old school,
Yeah.
slow down, go slow, take a month and go over everything in this letter, and let's build this family back. But it took years.
It's not fixable overnight.
It is
For
not
sure. There's too
fixable,
much hurt and
but it's
heartache.
worth it, and
Oh,
that's the thing
absolutely.
is like just I just hope that if anybody gets anything from any of these stories, especially Kat's, it's she's still the same person. She people do recover, families do get rebuilt. Like it happens. You just have to trust the process and
But
you
know
got to put
what?
in the work.
Kudos to y'all too. I mean, let's take Kathy out of the equation.
Yeah. Oh.
Kudos to y'all. Good God, you didn't have Mike. All,
It was hard.
All of them.
It was
Your
rough.
dad, your mom. Y'all didn't have to do that.
They didn't.
I ain't saying you'd ever not love her or whatever, but man, you know the families can make it really hard.
Oh, yeah.
on
Yeah.
us drug
Yeah.
addicts.
Well,
Trust me.
my family, so I'm still in prison, and several of people that I met when I was in prison come real close to me in prison. They get out before me. They didn't have support, so they would call my mom and Donna, and my mom and Donna would just not give them money but talk to them because they
Yeah.
didn't have anybody like
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
They could not believe it, and then still to this day, like still a lot of them know, like Michael, just a bunch of them here, like they grew up knowing Austin. Austin never met them, but they could walk in a room
Right.
and tell you who Donna was, who Mike was, who Austin was, well before they ever met him, because we decided that if we were going to do this and have a good sober support system, this is what we were going to do.
Right.
And if they weren't ready to play ball, I'd say, guys, listen, like I ain't trying to play. Like my family they gave me one shot. They meant it, and I knew they meant it, and I wasn't trying to be around or have anybody around me that would do anything to that.
This
Because
could all went to hell in a handbasket had
Yeah.
they not been such
and every day I tell
Yeah.
people the only reason I stayed sober is because somebody loved me. And
Yeah.
they knew me before, and they had faith that we can recover. That's the only reason. Had my family not been who they are, there's no possible way.
Oh, yeah,
I'd
I
have never
get it.
stayed sober.
But it took some time. I'm not
Oh,
going
it
to
did.
say
Oh,
like,
it did. It
when we
took
first
time.
when we knew, I'm like, I can just remember my dad. He was just, you know, he was all like, how did this happen? Like, she'll, you know, flip the light switch. She can stop using today. And I'm like, we really had to get educated on it. You know, we really did. But
Sounds easy, doesn't
it
it?
sounds so easy, but you know, when you hear her talk about, you know, the Michaels and the Dotties and, you know, the people that she met in that tapestry program and people in recovery, like she and I are blood sisters, but they are sisters. Like
Oh,
they
I
are
get
like,
it.
you
Yeah.
know, you like something's going on in their lives, she's right there. Something's going on in her lives, they're right there too. Like that is a true bond. Like the people in recovery, like if you go to these meetings, it's a family. It
Yeah,
really
it's called
is.
A
You
support
build
system.
you
And
build
it's
a
the reason
family.
it says support.
Absolutely.
By all sense of the word, that's what it is.
Absolutely.
We'll have to have Danny on one time, but Danny is the first one that for Mike and Donna and Austin too. Danny's and I love you, and he means that. He's in recovery, and then he generally like he wants to give you a hug and tell you he loves you, and Austin's like, Mom, that guy, like, he just wants to hug me and say he loves me all the time. I don't even know him. And he was always like that. And,
Thanks.
Yeah. And then Jamie, when Donna's husband started working here, and he was like, these people, they're friendly, ain't they?
Always telling somebody they love them.
Oh, they are,
Yeah.
because it's just sometimes that didn't happen
Yeah.
in families. So.
Well, I'm going to end it with this right
Yes.
here. I'm going to ask you the tough question, just like I asked your mom. I think I know the answer. I'm about 110% sure I do know the answer. Ain't easy, because I lived it too. You know, I'm the product of an addicted dad, you know, addicted family members or whatever, and became an addict. All the heartache, the trials, the tribulations, all this stuff that we're talking about with your family, your dad, your grandparents. Would you take that look again?
No hesitation. Yes. 1,000%.
Yeah.
Twice on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why?
Because it's helped me mold myself into the person I am today, and it's also given me the opportunity to be able to help that kid, to help that younger version of me that's out there, because it's there. Because I've seen it. I hear all these stories, and like Austin, hey man, my kid's 9, 10 years old.
And you can relate.
I can.
You
and
can relate,
and
'cause
they
you
tell
lived it.
They tell me I don't think they will ever love me again. I said you're lying to yourself.
Oh, yeah. That's why I get pissed off with all these
Yeah.
requirements and degrees, and you can't speak to these people if you didn't go to Yale or graduate from Marshall, and I just 100% disagree with it. I always will. I mean, I'm telling you, there ain't a man alive can give out better advice than you. There's just not, because you've lived it. And you can't take somebody who's never lived it. I told Caitlin one time, we're talking about parenting, and I think it goes with addiction too, is I told Caitlin, I said, I did the very best I could with the tools that I had in my tool belt.
Yeah.
Some people are blessed to have a whole tool belt full of tools to build that foundation. I didn't.
We didn't either.
So, yeah, most of us don't. Yeah. And I said, so Caitlin, as a dad, just understand, I built what I could build with what little I had right here. And I think it gave her a whole new perception of me to go, okay, I get it, because there's going to come a time when I may have to raise a kid. And I hope that I can put more, and that's what I would encourage parents.
Yes.
Put as many tools in that tool belt as you can. Become educated and learn, and give the addict a chance. And I know people say, oh, I've done it twice. I've done it 3 times. Yeah. Do it 4.
That's right. Try
maybe the 4th.
This might be the time.
And I'll end it with this, and it's depressing as piss, but I have to say it, and I'll encourage friends, high schoolers, teenagers, parents. My best friend I grew up with my whole life, I've talked a little bit about it. He called me one time on my way back from Georgia. I was coming to Kentucky, and I'll make this quick, but he said, hey, man, I need some money. I said, for what? He said, I got to pay bills. I said, you're lying. You ain't paying no bills. You ain't got no bills.
Yeah.
And he said, well, you're right. He said, I've relapsed, but would you come back home this weekend and put me in emergency room? If I stay 3 days, and they'll put me immediately into rehab, and I can go back into recovery. And I said, do you want me to come home now? This is on a Sunday. And he said, no, I could make it till next Friday. I said, are you sure? He said, oh yeah, I got it. He didn't make it. He didn't make it. That Friday, when I was mowing grass in Flatwoods, getting ready to come to put my best friend I grew up with since I was 6 in emergency room, go back to recovery, pulled up on the church steps and blew his brains out.
Can't take it no more.
No, don't wait. Don't go, he's all right. Oh, he's telling a lie. He's fine. Don't, because then you got to live with
live with it.
Hauling my buddy around, holding that handle, and we always made a pact with each other. Said every time we come on, first one died, we come to the grave and knock 3 times just to let them know we're visiting. So every time I go to Georgia, guess what I got to do? Because I didn't go home, didn't turn that car around on that Sunday, I have to go to that grave and go, I'm here, pal. Should have been here 5 days sooner. Don't wait, because you'd be knocking on the grave. Yep, you never know. Love all y'all. Thank you. Yep, thank y'all. Call us if you need us. You know how to get us.